You've probably seen that there's some examples of these logical fallacies from the cartoon show The Simpsons, and from random websites where I found some teacher explaining a logical fallacy. It doesn't hurt to have your own teacher explaining some of these to you from my own point of view. And I have these stock punchlines that I use in lecture every semester anyway, so I might as well put them on this class. We'll talk about slippery slope and misplacing burden of proof as two more logical fallacy categories that you should learn. They'll be on the final exam, and you can also use these categories to analyze the plays and novels and short stories that you're reading, because you might find some of the characters using them. So, slippery slope. This is a classic one. It's kind of, I don't really like the example from The Simpsons that I have in here. It's pretty good. It's if this happens, then that's going to happen kind of fallacy, and actually it's usually more than that. Is if this happens, then that's going to happen, and then that's going to happen, and that's going to happen. I'll give you an example, okay? Shasta College started selling veggie burgers in the cafeteria, and somebody started complaining. One of the faculty members, well, they're selling veggie burgers in the cafeteria. The next thing you know, they're going to get rid of all the meat, and then they're going to be forcing all of us to become vegetarians, and the next thing you know, we're all going to lose a lot of weight and die. Okay? That's a classic slippery slope. Here's another one, very common during wartime, during the Vietnam War, where the president said, we have to go and fight in Vietnam, because if we don't, Vietnam will fall to the communists, and then Cambodia will fall to the communists, and then China will fall to the communists, and the next thing you know, your daughter's going to be marrying some slant eye from communist Asia. That's the kind of talk that we heard during the Vietnam War, and that also includes, by the way, an example of ethnic stereotyping, which we'll talk about later on. Logical fallacies are commonly used by politicians, by used car salesmen, by somebody who's trying to persuade you with something when they don't have any evidence, okay? Here's another example, classic. You don't have any evidence. You flip it around, you make the other person try to prove your assertion. That's called misplacing the burden of proof. So you advance an argument, and then you tell the person you're arguing with, don't believe me, well, prove me wrong. Here's an example. You're arguing with somebody on Facebook about whether you should wear face masks when you go out in public. And you say, I don't think I need to wear a face mask. Prove me wrong. Okay? You're the one who's advancing the argument. You're misplacing the burden of proof. If you're going to assert something in an argument, in an essay, in any kind of scholarly writing, you're going to state your thesis, and then you're going to support it with evidence. You're going to prove that you are right with evidence, with your argument. There's also a connection to the court system with misplacing the burden of proof that I want you to be aware of. And when we watch the movie 12 Angry Men, this will be a big part of it. You've probably heard burden of proof when you're in the court system, okay? Who has to prove that the person is guilty as charged? It's the state, okay? The government cannot take somebody into court and accuse them of committing a crime, maybe murder, maybe theft or whatever, and then say to the person who's accused, you have to prove you're innocent. Not in America anyway. Actually, in some countries, that's the way they run their justice system. We are very lucky in that the burden of proof rests on the state. So the government has to prove that the person who's committing or accused of committing a crime is guilty. And if they can't prove it, then that person walks away free. So that's also burden of proof. And when you watch the movie 12 Angry Men, you'll definitely see an example of that.